Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the sixth episode, the sixth edition of The King and Pocket Aces, brought to you by rotoballer.com. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Aniano, Pocket Aces, and joining me as he does each and every week, the king of fantasy sports, Mr. Scott Engel. Scott, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. A lot going on. We're getting closer to baseball season. NFL free agency, NBA's heading down the stretch. We're about 6 races into the NASCAR season. Finally, this week, one of the big name drivers won. It's been screwing up my lineups at like a lot of NASCAR lineups. These guys like Hamlin and Logano are just not winning, and Christopher Bell and Michael McDowell. It's making it even tough in fantasy NASCAR this year.
Yeah, a lot happening. You summed it up there, and we're going to cover most of it.
March Madness.
And March Madness. It's a great time to be a sports fan. A ton happening. And you know where you go to follow it all? You go to rotoballer.com, and you check out everything there. The main page, the premium package, expert chats, you name it, Rotoballer has you covered, whether it's DFS or season long, baseball, football, basketball, MMA, esports, PGA. Scott mentioned Scott and Sean Engel covering all the great NASCAR action there at rotoballer.com as well. Sign up for that MLB premium package, sortable rankings, the draft guide, lineup optimizers. Sign up with the promo code KING for Scott or Pocket Aces for me and save yourself a little bit of money. Now, Scott, we're going to get into the NFL free agency at the second half of the show, but we're going to start with some fantasy baseball talk. And in particular, starting pitching. And starting pitching is something that we'll probably cover for the next couple of weeks because it's a key. There's a ton of depth. But for tonight, we're going to start at the top with the Rotoballer rankings, the starting pitching rankings, and we're going to look at the top 10. And it's been interesting. You and I have been involved in tout. Labor drafts have been going on. The TGFBI drafts have been going on. And I've seen Gerrit Cole go number 1. I've seen Jacob DeGrom go number 1. I've even seen Shane Bieber be the first pitcher off the board. So I start with you. Amongst those 3, does it even matter to you which one of those 3 pitchers goes first to you? Or are they just 1A, and 1B?
To me, in my personal ranks, I have a DeGrom, Cole, and Bieber. I feel like Bieber's got maybe more upside than Cole, but he's less proven at that level. And to me, DeGrom's just untouchable. And look, he can't chase wins, but with the Mets are going to be better around DeGrom this year. Maybe he even gets more wins. And he's the best bet to be the best of the 3 in K per 9, ERA, WHIP, etc. Every draft that I've been in, and every mock draft that I've been in about a dozen mock drafts, DeGrom is unquestionably gone number 1, and usually within the top 5 to 6 of any draft. I was in an NL-only league on CBSSports.com. I bid the most for DeGrom because that starting pitching becomes even more – elite starting pitching is very hard to come by this year, especially to get guys that are going to throw – 200 innings with a lot of teams going to 6. And DeGrom is guaranteed to go 200 and contend for the Cy Young Award. Gerrit Cole can make a case he's better than DeGrom, but DeGrom's usually been better over him over the last 3 years. Arguably could have won the Cy Young 3 years in a row. Bieber looked great last year, but not quite as proven at that level as Cole and DeGrom. And the fact that DeGrom plays in the National League a little bit, gives him kind of a slight edge over Cole.
I mean, Jacob DeGrom last season, granted it was the shortest season, set a career high in Ks per 9 at over 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, his ERA went up, Scott. After 2 straight seasons of being 1.9, he actually had to settle for an ERA of about 2.38. But here's the benefit of Bieber. Okay, he's the youngest of the bunch, 25 years old. And in 25 years old, he's already compiled the 34-14 record with a 3.32 career ERA and 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. And last season, Shane Bieber was as good as Jacob DeGrom had ever been when you look at it over 77 and a third innings, over 14 Ks per 9 innings, and an ERA of 1.63. And the truth is, Scott, Shane Bieber wasn't even getting lucky. He pitched to an xFIP of 2.04. I mean, he was legitimately that dominant. Okay, a home run per 9 inning of 0.81. Batting average against was 167. He was as close to unhittable as he could be. Now, that being said, our good friends Real Talk Raph and Josh Hayes, in their Tout Wars draft, they took Gerrit Cole before the other two. I don't really have a problem with it. And I would think that maybe that's the one pitcher, because of the Yankees, I guess, that you could quote unquote chase wins as well as get all the other numbers from.
DeGrom last year, though, and Bieber have to look at it like we do with a lot of other hitters, actually. Say, okay, this was just a 60-game slice of a season. And then you look at what he did over a full season the previous year. You know, he had a 170 ERA and a 199 FIP and a 260 xFIP, you know, the year before, 353, 350, 323. You know, Shane Bieber's never shown those kind of numbers over a full 162-game season, making 30-plus starts.
Yeah, fair point. See what he does this year. It's a big year for Bieber to really put himself in the upper echelon of starting pitchers. Now, Scott, at that point now, I don't think anybody really argues 1, 2, or 3. I think in whatever order you want to do it is fine, but I think most people, those 3 pitchers are the consensus top 3. My next question.
And it's interesting to where they go. You know, I've been in some drafts where they'll go 3 through 6 or 7.
That was my next
question.
Then,
you know, I was in one draft where Cole almost dropped to me at number 11.
Wow.
He went at number 10. And then I just took Bieber at 11.
You know, I've been in spots, though, too, where I've been now in the first round sitting at pick 6, and I'm walking away with Juan Soto at 6 because these pitchers are going within the top 5. So, you know, you have all those elite hitters going early in drafts, you know, the Tatises, the Sotos, the Acunas, the Mookie Betts. As soon as people
start Trey Turner,
or even Mike Trout, as soon as people start pulling one of these top 3 pitchers into that top 5, it changes the dynamic of the first round of that draft because you're getting a legitimate MVP bat at 6, 7, or 8. Totally changes. You know, if you're sitting at 7 or 8, you might be thinking, all right, I'm going to get one of the pitchers here. And now all of a sudden, like me and my TGFBI, I got Juan Soto at 6. I mean, I couldn't hit the draft button fast enough. I was shocked he was there because of where the pitchers went.
Yeah, you know, every draft is different. We talk about it in every fantasy sport. You know, you can't sit there and predict what's going to happen to you. Like I have my biggest money league draft coming up next week, and I'm sitting at 6. And to me, I'm just going to list my top 6 players, and you know, when it's time for my pick, it's just the top guy left on the board. I'm not worried about positional scarcity. I'm thinking about stats early on. And if I can get one of those top 3 pitchers in the first round, I'll take them. Otherwise, I'm going in the offensive direction, and I'm always looking for power and speed.
So you'll have your hitters, you'll have your pitchers ready. So here's my question for you, without naming names, because who knows, a competitor could be listening.
That's okay.
Of those,
my duty to the listeners and the viewers comes first over my own teams.
Of those top 6 you're going to rank, how many of them are from the top 3 pitchers we've mentioned?
Of the top.
So you're picking 6th overall.
Right.
Okay. You said you're going to have your top 6 players, right?
Yeah.
Those top 6
I would
players,
say
already of them going to be
I would say probably one of them fits in the top 6. Probably DeGrom.
Okay. So now, when I think of the offensive,
maybe 2. You know, I'm thinking about it. I mean, I might definite hitting top 4. Then I'm thinking at 6. You know, okay, Turner or Mike Trout. You know, and probably DeGrom fixed in for me 6 overall right now.
So it's interesting hearing you say that because when I now look ahead, right? I know Fernando Tatis is in your top 6. Ronald Acuna is in your top 6. Juan Soto should be in your top 6.
Yeah.
Mookie Betts.
Yep.
Now, if you're going to go 2 pitchers, that means Mike Trout is not in your top 6. There's so
not over DeGrom.
Okay.
And probably not over Cole. Then you got Trey Turner, and I love the speed,
right?
And the power, and that he puts in there too. I don't want to be in the second round and third round and going after Alberto Mondesi when I can get more counting stats with Trey Turner and still get that speed in the first round.
Yeah, that's why though. Like I'm loving sitting at that 6, 7, 8 spot this year in these drafts. Because you and I both
you're
said,
8, other people make the decision for you. And
you just sit there and you're getting a stud at that spot, whether it's one of the pitchers or one of the hitters. And then obviously you come around a little quicker in round 2 and get another starting pitcher there or another bat, whichever direction you want to go. But sitting there at 8, it's just, or 7 or 8, it's just a great spot to be in this year. When you look at the top 5 or 6 bats with those 3 arms we just mentioned, it's a no-lose drafting spot, Scott.
I'm not crazy about being number 6 in a 15. No, it takes forever to come back to you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't you rather be, say, 8 or 9?
Spot takes forever to come back to you.
8 or 9 that's why 8 or 9 to me is a prime spot in a 15 team right now.
Yeah, I've ended up in a lot of drafts like anywhere between 12 and 15. And it's more pronounced in baseball than it is football that you want those one of those top dozen players to fall to you, but you're still if you're 15th, you're the first guy to pick a second player, so that's the advantage on it.
Yeah. Now, Scott, when
in an auction, we're talking about an auction. I don't know if I'm going to quite spend up for one of those 3 pitchers, because I'm okay taking a hitter in the first round. A snake draft. In an auction, I don't quite want to be the guy that goes 50 for DeGrom unless I'm in a national.
How much did you see? How much was DeGrom in your NL only?
He was I think he was 52 when I got.
And that was an NL only. Okay.
Yeah, that was an NL only. But I was willing to do it in NL only.
Different game, yeah.
Especially when I give bargains like Adam Frazier for $1.
Right.
But then you look at an auction, and I'd rather sit back and get Zach Gallen for $27, something like that. Get Aaron Nola around that range. Brandon Woodruff, maybe get 2 of those guys. Spread it a little bit more around. In an auction, the stars and scrubs hasn't worked for me.
Yeah.
It hasn't worked for me, especially when you're in Tout Wars and you go and you get such a sharp room like that. Last year I had my best finish because I didn't go in on the top players. Yeah, you'll hear them in the Sirius XM broadcast. They'll talk, boo, Engel spent this on DeGrom. He's and they'll talk up. Oh, look at Engel bidding that guy up. It used to be me, but the last year and this year, I don't know if I'm going to be going in on those $50 bids on any.
Yeah, my strategy in an auction is very similar in that it's a balanced lineup. I don't like the stars and scrubs. You're right. I just don't think it works. Now, Scott, going back to the starting pitching rankings, Rotoballer has Darvish sitting at the number 4 overall starting pitcher. Pitched to an ERA just over 2, had a monster season, now goes to San Diego. So another situation where Darvish could potentially chase wins. We know how good that Padres team on paper should be. Okay. However, your number 4 starting pitcher is somebody different than Darvish.
No, Darvish is my 4.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking on your list. You have Darvish at 5. You have Lucas Giolito sitting at 4 on the list. No?
No, actually, I have Darvish.
I apologize. So you agree? So you agree with Rotoballer? Darvish at 4, and then is Giolito number 5?
Yeah, Giolito's number 5 for me. About 3 years ago, I thought I'd never say that, but Darvish to me is clearly the number 4. The K rate's been at 11 the last few years. Last year the ERA was 2.01. The xFIP was only 2.02. He did have a high strand rate, but I think the xFIP reflects a slight bit of regression. But going to San Diego and pitching in that ballpark with the support of that lineup and what they've done in the offseason, there can be nobody else number.
So here's my question to you about Darvish. A small sample last year, 76 innings, the 11 Ks per 9, a career low walk rate at 1.66 per 9 innings, a career low home run per 9 inning rate. All of those were career lows. The ERA was at 2.01. However, Darvish in 2019 with the Cubs, 100 more innings, even though the strikeout rate was at same level elite, over 11 per 9, his walk rate was 1 more per 9 innings, and his ERA was just under 4. So my question for you for Darvish is, if we're concerned about the small sample, couldn't I make the argument that last season's Darvish was also a small sample when I look at that ERA and look at the numbers from just a year earlier? Or are you just enamored, and I am too, trust me, I have him in Dynasty formats, that K rate has just been so consistently awesome that it's just, you can't ignore that on Darvish.
Yeah, and it's not like the walk rate the year before was terrible.
Right.
And then you look at the fact previous year, his xFIP was 339, which is, it's much lower than his ERA, 330. So, you look at last year's sample size, and that's a great stretch, but it's like a third of the season. You take the 2019 numbers and you put it in a better ballpark, San Diego, and you meet somewhere in the middle, and that's still fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't underestimate, Scott's making a great point. That ballpark in San Diego will play. Okay. Darvish is a guy who's given up for his career over 1 home run per 9 innings, a high of almost 1.5 a couple of times. And now he goes to that ballpark in San Diego. That's going to help tremendously.
You have to remember within his division, he'll play in San Francisco, which was a little bit more of a hitter's park with adjustments last year, Dodger Stadium, which is a pitcher's hit, and then Colorado, which we all know about.
Yeah.
But, to me, sometimes you're going to see excellent pitchers have really good starts even in Colorado.
Yeah. Well, that Colorado lineup now without Arenado, the Giants lineup is a little bit weaker. The Arizona lineup is suspect. We know that Western Division is a 2-team race as it is, so he does face maybe some softer lineups a little bit more as well, Scott, throughout the year.
Yeah.
Now, Lucas Giolito, I was trying to get to him before. I had him out of order, but nonetheless, you have Giolito at 5. Now, some people would scream and holler that that's crazy, that a pitcher like Trevor Bauer is after Giolito, Max Scherzer is after Giolito, whoever it may be. All right. Lucas Giolito has a career ERA sitting at 4.44. The last 2 seasons ERA has settled in the 3.4s, xFIP close to that. That K rate is tremendous. There's no denying it. Okay. What is it about Giolito at 26 years old that has him so high on your rankings?
They say on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, it's smart. I think Jim Bowden actually says it. Don't just look at last season. Look at the last 2 seasons, and you take it as a season and a half, and then you prorate it into 1 season. And if you do that for Giolito, it was just a breakthrough period for him. The strikeouts were pretty much on par last year. The walk rate has pretty much stayed in the same ballpark. So is the ERA. The xFIP was even lower, but 366 the year before. We've been waiting for the Giolito breakout. I think it truly happened in 2019 and 2020 was more of a preview of what we've seen. Giolito's always had the stuff. He's just had to put it together, Anthony. And I believe he has over the last year and a half to the point where he's just elite. Whereas with Scherzer, I get a little bit concerned about the age. And even though Bauer, I could say the same thing about Giolito, that I can't trust the track record enough. To me, I've already seen it with Bauer that he can be up and down and up and down. I saw Giolito reach that level 2 years ago, and now I have no reason to believe that he's going to fall off that level. Whereas with Bauer, I have track record to believe that maybe he'll fall off that.
Yep. When you look at what Giolito has done back in 2018, his first season with a full season's worth of starts, 6.5 Ks per nine, almost 5 walks per nine. The ERA was over 6. A lot of questions. And I agree with Scott. What he's done in 2019 and what he's done in 2020, remember, he was the Nationals' top pitching prospect at the time, came over in the Adam Eaton trade, and now pitches in what I think is a contender for the American League pennant, okay, and definitely in the American League Central. Another pitcher, Scott, I think you'd agree that
we don't get like to that, though. Over the last 2 years, Giolito's changed his arsenal. They've thrown the fastball a little bit less, and he ditched the curveball for a changeup, which has really given him an advantage.
Yeah, which has given him a big advantage. When you look at it, in 2018, he threw his fastball about 59% of the time. Last year, it was down to about almost 51%. The slider stayed consistent at 14%. Talk about the curveball. 2018, he threw his curveball about 10% of the time. Last year, he only threw it 1%, but his changeup has gone from almost
15% in 2008.
Yep, and last year, it was up to almost 34%. And he's throwing that changeup, Scott, at about 81 miles an hour, a terrific balance from a guy who's throwing a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. That difference in speed makes that changeup work perfectly.
Yeah, it's a lot of times, you'll see an arsenal change, a mechanical change, etc. So I don't look at really anything previous to 2009 at this point with Giolito.
Yeah, it's a great point. He's not the same pitcher he was back then. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And that changeup's become an out pitch for him.
Yep. And with Bauer, he's going to be as good as he was last year. I'm still skeptical.
Okay, so let's talk about Bauer briefly. You have him at number 6. But this is a guy who has more ERAs on the wrong side of 4 than on the right side of 4. And my concern with Bauer is not that he's going to be a 4+ ERA guy, but he could easily settle in as a 3.5, a 3.8, just because his arsenal has stayed similar, and we've seen a longer track record of where that ERA settles in, Scott.
And the xFIP last year was 25. He had a 90% strand rate. So he got lucky in terms of that statistic. Well, like you said, you look at his track record before that, 448, and ERA 443, xFIP. Then 2 years before that, 221 and 314. He's capable, but it almost seems like he's an every other year pitcher. Again, you go back to the 60-game sample last year, and that's a good stretch throughout a season, but that's the kind of stretch in my mind where it happens in the first half. You make the All-Star game, right, and then you could have a mediocre second half. I guess I call it the Mike Pelfrey rule. So I remember when Mike Pelfrey had this great first half and he made the All-Star game, and then he was really bad in the second half. So what are we going to see of Bauer over a full season? He was a Cy Young in 1/3 of the season. If I'm going to put an asterisk on anybody from last year that it was just a third of the season and starting pitching, it's going to be Trevor Bauer because it was just a third of the season. Now, I got my Fantasy Baseball Insider report coming out on rotobowler.com this week, and I talked to different scouts and players and stuff like that, and there's different reads that I get on Bauer from Baseball Insiders. And one strong one, I talked to a 40-plus year scout, he said the same thing as me, that he's never done that over an extensive period, pitched at that level in his career, or hardly. And then I had another former player who used to play in the Dodgers system say to me that he likes the environment Bauer's going in because he feels Clayton Kershaw is going to take Bauer under the wing and help him refine his approach mentally and stay where he's at in terms of stuff and mechanics and things like that.
Everything Bauer did last season were career lows. Batting average against, his whip was a career low. His strikeout rate was a career high. His walk rate was a career low. And you said the one other number that's interesting, that left on base percentage had been consistently in the 70 to 75% range last year. Almost 91% of the batters who got on base were left on base. That number goes back to his norms in the 70s. You're going to see that ERA go to where that xFIP was and be in the mid-threes. Scott, with only a couple of minutes left until halftime, let's finish up your top 10. You mentioned Max Scherzer, age, had back issues. He sits there, followed by Brandon Woodruff, Luis Castillo, and Aaron Nola. Okay?
I really wanted to get Zach Gallen in there.
Really?
Yeah, but I just couldn't. I couldn't do it, but I could. It would not shock me this year if Zach Gallen outperforms Trevor Bauer.
I could 100% go along with that.
Zach Gallen is my number 11 unequivocally, and I wonder if I rank him too low. He doesn't blow you away with any one thing, but he does everything well. He's balanced across the board in everything that he does. Not in one facet of the game does he dominate, but the control, the command, the strikeouts, the ERA, the whip. He's a complete pitcher.
My one concern with Gallen, we haven't seen a full year of innings out of him, Scott. 2019, 80 innings. Last season, 72. Let's see what happens when Zach Gallen has to push 150, 160, 170 innings. Can he maintain that K rate?
That's why he can't quite get in my top 10 yet. But I feel like he really hasn't the opportunity to do it yet, that this is the big breakthrough year.
Scott,
we could be drafting Zach Gallen top 6 next.
Yeah, that's a fair point. With that K rate, keeps the walk rate down and is able to sustain throughout the season. One last question before halftime. If I had to say to you, Scott, who is that under the radar, the quote-unquote sleeper starting pitcher for you in 2021, who would it be?
Elieser Hernandez of the Miami Marlins. Everybody else talks about Pablo Lopez, Sixto Sanchez, Tara, some of the prospects coming up. But this guy last year, 32.1 K rate, 4.7 walk rate, 316 whip, 354 xFIP. And so far, batters have hit 189 against his changeup. He's working that as the third pitch into his arsenal, and that will be the key. If I can get Elieser Hernandez as my 5th starter, I think I'm going to be very happy. Also, Aaron Savali, is a good later pitcher, but I don't think he gets enough strikeouts maybe to give me a sleeper. And same thing for Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman's at the third pitch. If that can boost his Ks a little bit, he's a nice value, but none of the two of them have the strikeout upside of Hernandez.
When you look at Hernandez, almost 12 Ks per 9 and less than 2 walks per 9 last season, and granted it was only 25 innings. Doesn't give up a lot of home runs, and you mentioned the batting average against him.
He did actually. He was prone to giving up the HR, but again, he's got a good home park.
Batting average on the season against was only 212. The whip was there. A fun little pick late in the draft. And Scott, let's be honest here. That Miami Marlins pitching rotation is young. They throw hard, and they're good. Don't underestimate those Miami Marlins pitchers.
Sandy Alcantara is the old man of the staff.
Yep.
And with the Marlins, and we were talking about this on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio with Jordan McPherson of the Miami Herald, that the Marlins made the playoffs. And I love to make jokes about, how many people don't go to see the Marlins.
Right.
It's like being a Marlins beat report. What's that? You call the one guy who roots for them when something happens. But, people treat them with no respect in terms of fantasy drafting. There are so many Marlins that you can get later on in those late rounds, whether it's hitters or pitchers, and there's some really good values. It's like I just did a great fantasy baseball invitational. I ended up with like 5-6 Marlins because I got them all at value plays.
Yeah, absolutely. But
the team made the playoffs last year.
That is a terrific young pitching staff that could provide you a ton of Ks. All right, everybody, real quick, head over to rotoballer.com during halftime. Sign up for that MLB premium package, okay? Use the promo code KING for Scott. Aces for me. Get the draft guide and all the draft kits and everything else we have over at rotoballer.com. When we return, we're going to take a look at NFL free agency, players in new places, players who have re-signed with their teams, and then we'll take a look at the NBA fantasy scale and some players to keep an eye on in your leagues. We'll be right back. This is the King in Pocket Aces. Welcome back, everybody, to the King and Pocket Aces, Episode 6. Scott Engel, Anthony Aniano with you here for the second half of the show, the NFL, the NBA portion of the King and Pocket Aces. And guys, don't forget, head over to rotoballer.com. NFL is year-round over there at rotoballer.com. Scott, a fun time of the year in the NFL as NFL free agency has now kicked off and begun. And we had a couple of nice signings, some interesting moves that affect fantasy, right? That's what we are. So we're going to take it from the fantasy perspective. So let's start off with Aaron Jones re-signing with the Green Bay Packers. Now that we know he's there and he's going to be the quote-unquote guy, does this now cement Aaron Jones as a first-round draft pick in 2021? And are we worried now about A.J. Dillon doing what Jamal Williams has done, which is take some of Aaron Jones's carries?
Jamal Williams didn't take enough work to the point where it affected Aaron Jones's fantasy value. He was still a top fantasy running back, top 5, and sometimes outside of that. We can't confuse workload. No running back's going to carry 32 times a game. There's always going to be another running back there, very likely to give that guy a breather, make sure he doesn't get overworked, etc. Jamal Williams really wasn't a factor in terms of Aaron Jones's fantasy value the last few years. That said, it's not like A.J. Dillon's not going to be there. I would drop Aaron Jones a little bit, maybe towards the end of the top 10. Because I do feel like A.J. Dillon's more physical than Jamal Williams, whereas Jamal Williams was more of an all-around pass-catching back. A.J. Dillon is just, a guy who plows through the defense, and he could be in line maybe to take more goal-line carries from Aaron Jones than Jamal Williams did.
That's tough considering. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Aaron Jones has 25 touchdowns over the last 2 years, and he's going to lose carries near the goal line. It's crazy to me.
Not every running back, though, carries the ball 100% of the time at the goal line.
I know.
100%. I would say, of every 5 carries near the goal line, I'm still going to expect Aaron Jones to get about 3.5 of them. So, he's still going to be a top fantasy running back. He can break off long runs, too, and he can sometimes catch the passes out of the backfield. So, to me, I ding him just a little bit. I think A.J. Dillon will be more of a threat to Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams does because it's never, ever been a pure one-man backfield. It's more about what Aaron Jones has done with the carries when he's got the touches and the efficiency rather than just sheer volume.
Now, what's interesting is in talking with some of the other Rotoballer writers who work in the NFL section there for rotoballer.com, A.J. Dillon in best ball leagues right now, before this signing of Aaron Jones, was going as high as round 4 or round 5. I think the speculation of Aaron Jones to Miami was really seeing a spike in A.J. Dillon's value. Now, knowing this, and forget about best ball, but just in season long, what is A.J. Dillon's value? Is he even a weekly, in your opinion, a flex option, or is he just right now, is he the Aaron Jones handcuff?
Well, I don't think he's the insurance policy. He is the insurance policy for him. Because if Aaron Jones gets injured at any point, it'll definitely be A.J. Dillon leading the backfield. Other than that, you're going to see 8 to 10 carries a game. Maybe if you're lucky, you get a touchdown or 2. So he's somebody that I really don't want to draft to the late rounds. And I understand. Now, look, you want to draft best ball right now? I get it. Go to
I don't do it.
Go to rotoballer.com/FFPC. You'll get a great discount off of early FFPC best ball drafts. But me personally, I'm not doing it yet. As soon as the NFL draft's over, I'm going to go crazy. But what I'm doing now is I'm going to the FFPC and at least reserving my spots, and having that money in my account and getting that discount right now because I want to have the spots and just bang because, I don't know where these guys are going to go, where players are going to land and how it's going to affect their value, even for the rookies.
Yeah. Now, the one thing about A.J. Dillon is this, and you said 8 to 10 carries, and that's a fair number. If he somehow, and I don't think he will, but if he somehow ever hit the waiver wire in a league next year and something happened to Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon would legitimately be getting bid on by teams' entire fab budget. I mean, that's how much potential A.J. Dillon has on this team. So for me, if I'm drafting
in a lot of leagues.
Well, that's my point is if I draft Aaron Jones, I cannot leave that draft without A.J. Dillon on my team.
Well, you can't control that unless you draft him early.
Unless you got to go earlier than you want. If you have to do it, you have to make that move for him. But it's going to be very tough. He may become this year, A.J. Dillon, the best backup running back, quote unquote backup, in the league, Scott, especially if opportunity arises for him.
I don't know about that because we've never seen what he can do if he gets a full complement of carries. And, Alexander Madison, Tony Pollard, he'd be in consideration, but I don't know about best in the league.
All right, fair enough. Other free agent news, Drew Brees, Hall of Famer. He rides off into the sunset and retires. Now, this is interesting here. And you know this stuff better than me. Taysom Hill now restructures his contract for the Saints, $140 million, but all of it is voidable. And the reality is it's a 1-year deal right now for about $12 million, and it was done to save cap space. They save about $7.5 million in cap space in New Orleans. And all reports out of New Orleans is that Jameis Winston is going to be the guy, the starting quarterback on similar to a Cam Newton contract for the New Orleans Saints. So my question for you is this. If Jameis Winston ends up being the quarterback for the Saints, or it's Taysom Hill, fantasy perspective, who has more fantasy value as the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints?
It's
a tough one.
Because I'd probably say Taysom Hill because he's got the rushing ability. But as somebody who was Alvin Kamara in a dynasty league, I wanted it to be Winston because he fits more of what they've done conventionally in New Orleans. And Jameis Winston has never had a running back like Alvin Kamara throughout his career. They're going to use Kamara to ease a lot of pressure on him. One of the reasons why he threw so many interceptions in Tampa Bay is they didn't have a good defense. They didn't have a running game.
Yeah.
So he continually had to throw, playing from behind, staying in games, no run support. It's going to be different here. They're going to lean heavily on Kamara, I think. I think there's a lot of people who assume Kamara is going to take a hit either way. Not if Winston's in there, because I think they'll lead heavily Kamara on a runner and as a receiver out of the backfield to give Winston that balance that he never had in Tampa Bay. I would say Taysom Hill, though, because he's got the rushing ability, and I don't think you're going to see Jameis Winston gun with quite nearly as many attempts as he did in Tampa Bay.
If you and I were drafting right now, hanging out, eating pizza, doing our draft, and you were drafting a QB2, and both of these Saints were on the board, Hill, and under the assumption that Jameis, all reports are that Winston returns, which one of those quarterbacks are you drafting as your second quarterback from New Orleans?
I'm going in a different direction. Do I have to take one of these? Because
you have to, Scott. That's the game we're playing.
Training camp battle. It's going to be wages on the field.
See, I don't think it's going to be a training camp battle. I'm disagreeing with you there. I think Winston's going to be the guy, and Taysom Hill is going to go back to being that all over the field, playing quarterback, running the ball, receiving the ball. Certain packages, Taysom Hill will be under center, Jameis Winston will be on the bench. But the, quote, starting quarterback, I think, will be Jameis Winston.
You know what? You sold me. I'll take Winston. You know, I was thinking about it as you were talking about it, you know, and that's why they brought him in, you know, as the successor to groom him. And they, you know, the role's already established for Taysom Hill.
I have worked with Scott Engel for 8 years. I finally have won him over. There it is.
You
I'm
won
good
me over the first day.
All right, Scott.
You're my second. You're in my second tier of favorite people at Roto-Baller.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Sean Engel's in a tier all by himself.
Well, he has to be. I mean, that's fair, right? Yeah. Am I ahead of Real Talk Raf?
What? You're on that same tier.
All right.
I love you guys so much equally.
All right.
You, Josh Hayes, Raf, Uncle Leo, Alex, you know, Pierre, it's
Florio, the whole crew.
I don't know about Florio.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep, all of them. Florio, Raf, everybody.
Great group of guys over at rotoballer.com. Absolutely. Scott, one of the big spenders in free agency were the New England Patriots. They brought back Cam Newton. They've added Jonnu Smith at tight end, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Agholor at the tight end position. When we look at now these pieces in New England, where does the fantasy value lie? Is Jonnu Smith now somebody who we look at as that tier after Kelsey and maybe Darren Waller and Kittle? Is Jonnu Smith sitting there in 2021 as the next tier of fantasy tight end?
First off, I just want to know if Bill Belichick's in tout wars this year, because the Patriots are spending money like somebody who's in a salary cap draft at tout wars, and they're going stars and scrubs and just throwing all their money out.
Throwing it all in.
At the beginning of the draft. But I'm skeptical about it. I can't write his name in as top 10, yeah, and I know what the Patriots historically have done, but Cam Newton's had some really good years with Greg Olsen, but I'm not quite sold that Cam Newton can make Jonnu Smith an outstanding pass receiver to the point where he's there right after the elite, which is like the top three. You know, it's Kelsey, Waller, and Kittle. You know, I'm not sold. I think I have to be proven on it. I like the opportunity better for Cam. Last year he had the COVID and he had the worst supporting cast of his career. Cam's never had a great receiving supporting cast. He's had good tight ends, and you know, he made Greg Olsen a top 3 fantasy tight end when he was in his prime. And I do think, you know, that Jonnu Smith is the type of guy that you want for Cam. Cam doesn't have a big throw down the field arm. You know, getting a tight end like Jonnu Smith who can do things after the catch, etc., I think is good for him. So I have a minor amount of skepticism, but I do like the signing.
So Smith last season finished the year with 8 receiving touchdowns. Didn't have over even 500 receiving yards. Different system now.
He had a quarterback in Tannehill.
He did, and that's what makes things, you know, a little bit interesting. Tennessee's kind of taking a little bit of hit offensively here with Smith leaving, and we'll talk about Corey Davis in a moment. But now, let me ask you this now. Is Nelson Agholor the wide receiver 1 now with the Patriots? Edelman, we know, has had a knee issue. Some of the young kids haven't developed. Agholor comes along, has a nice season last year, gets out of Philadelphia. Agholor has a nice season, cashes in on that with the Patriots this year. Are we looking at him and going, yeah, he's the guy for the Patriots? I mean, he had 18.7 yards per reception last year.
A few years ago with Agholor, he played well in the slot for the Eagles. And last year, he just looked like a deep threat.
Yeah.
Nothing else. So he's not a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. They, you know, and this early in the offseason, I can't say it. They might still sign somebody. Even after we record this, they might draft somebody. I think he gives him a downfield threat that he's never had in his career. We can't think of any receivers for Cam Newton in his career where they were just a pure straight line bomb deep threat. But he did play with Steve Smith, right? But Steve Smith was more of an all around guy, right?
Right.
But this guy's just pure jets down the field, big play. But he's also proven he can work out of the slot. So I think, I'm skeptical. They're trying to build more around Cam, and he's never had a good receiving crew in his career, but can he take advantage of that? So I can't draft Nelson Agholor as a starting fantasy wide receiver when we sit here right now talking about this.
Okay. You put Jonnu Smith, he's in the top 10. So in a 12-team league, he is a starting tight end. Yeah. Is Cam Newton in a 12-team, 1 QB league, keep it on that level, is he being drafted as a quarterback 2, as a backup in the top 24, returning to the Patriots?
Yeah, I would say, he could be top 15 to 20, but he's got a lot to prove. It's not just like, I know they had the COVID last year and a terrible receiving crew, but he threw some bad passes last year. You worry about his shoulder, but he's now look, and I pull for Cam. You know what? Because Cam is a really, really nice guy off the field. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of people say they don't like Cam Newton, but I've seen films and what he does and how he treats the fans off the field, and it makes me want to root for Cam Newton. Yeah. So I hope he has a better year, but I can't be convinced. I got to see with my own eyes. He's got to earn the higher ranking to me.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I'm not disagreeing with that. He does have,
and I'm not saying the potential isn't there for it. If they continue to surround him with good playmakers, there's no telling what could happen with Cam.
Yeah, but he does have something to prove, and it's also going to be interesting to see what the Patriots end up doing in the draft if they are able to get it, if they decide to look at potentially drafting a quarterback in April and making Cam maybe a caretaker type of situation in 2021. Scott, one other fantasy relevant signing, and there's been a bunch of action. We know this. The New York Jets signed Corey Davis. Rashad Perryman is out. Corey Davis is in. Okay, Jamison Crowder is still there. The young kid Denzel Mims is there.
He might not be back.
Right. So now the question becomes, is Corey Davis? I mean, he had a nice season, but are we excited for him as the wide receiver 1 potentially of the New York Jets?
Again, we're early in the offseason. Just because he's the number 1 on the depth chart now doesn't mean it's going to remain that way. The Jets have a lot of cap room. After we record this, they might sign somebody. If he's a number 2, that's really nice. All signs are pointing to the Jets moving on from Sam Darnold. So he's either going to be playing with a rookie or a guy trying to get his career back in gear. Like Jonnu Smith, he gets a downgraded quarterback here.
Yes.
Because even if the Jets draft Wilson, he's still got to go out and prove that he can do it on the field, whereas Tannehill's an established quarterback. So if you're a Jet fan, you're excited, I think, because before last year, I didn't even want to draft Corey Davis, and he finally started living up to that tremendous draft slot where he was taken. And he still doesn't look like a top 10, NFL draft wide receiver, but he can be a very nice complementary piece. It depends on what the Jets do in the rest of the offseason to surround him here. He's a big target with good quickness, and he can score some touchdowns. And I think he has the potential to be a fantasy wide receiver 3. But we have to see what the Jets continue to do during the offseason.
Never had over 900 receiving yards in his career, had almost 1,000 last year. But, Scott, to me, there's no coincidence. Corey Davis's best year came after A.J. Brown arrived. And everybody knew A.J. Brown was the best receiver on that Tennessee team, which means the team's best cornerback in most games is assigned to A.J. Brown. Corey Davis.
Right, and when teams play zone, they
they shift in certain directions.
The safety helps towards.
If you were scheming defensively against the Tennessee Titans last year, your number one priority was to stop Derrick Henry. Your number two priority was to stop A.J. Brown. Corey Davis, you said, all right, if somebody's going to beat us, let him go to Corey Davis. Well, now Corey Davis is going to the Jets, and he doesn't have anything even close to a run game like he had, and he doesn't have anything close to an opposite wide receiver as of the time of this taping opposite him in A.J. Brown. Corey Davis legitimately is in a, and you said it, with a worse quarterback situation, at least, for a year until the Jets, if they draft the rookie, establishes. To me, this is a huge fantasy negative for Corey Davis heading into 2021.
We can't do that, Anthony. The offseason isn't over.
But it doesn't.
We're not going to. Who are the Jets? Jets are not going to sign a big name wide receiver.
Who are they going to sign? They've all been, unless it's Juju Smith-Schuster, and Juju Smith-Schuster is not A.J. Brown, and he still doesn't have a run game or a quarterback to do what he did in Tennessee.
What if they sign Kenny Golladay?
And you still don't have a quarterback to get them the ball.
That's true. But look, I think it's definitely a downgrade for Corey Davis. I agree in that, but the Jets offseason isn't over, though. I think we have to throw that out there.
It's not over, but fantasy, if you're in a dynasty league, are you happy that Corey Davis is no longer a Titan and he's now a New York Jets if Corey Davis is on your dynasty roster?
I have mixed feelings. In the short term, it doesn't look good, but in the longer term, it could be promising.
Okay, fair enough. Scott, let's pivot now over and talk a little bit NBA, where you have been dominating, since your slow start. All right, let's take a look here at some players, some streamers and ads. All right, Kelly Olynyk. Okay, Scott, what's your take on him?
And these are players that you can use in DFS. If your waiver run already happened and the waiver wire is open, they still be available. So, or just to stream and have on your bench. I've been playing yo-yo in both my leagues with Kelly Olynyk, because when Bam Adebayo is healthy, you can get a good night out of him. One night he'll grab 7 rebounds, he'll score 20 points, he'll hit 4 threes, and then the next night it'll be like 9 points and 5 rebounds, and like, why do I have him in the lineup? You have to check the injury reports on rotoballer.com and the player news, but whenever Adebayo has been out now for a few games with a knee injury and Olynyk stepped up, and it's always very hard to get center depth in fantasy basketball and seasonal, and you can plug him in as a streamer whenever there are injuries in that Miami front court. And he's a decent plugger right now if you're waiting for like Yusef Nurkic to come back or something like that. When Adebayo's not there, the numbers are going to be better. He's going to be up and down. I don't know whether I'd rather have him or Robin Lopez right now if Adebayo is healthy. But, he can hit threes. He can have some good nights here and there, and center's always a thin position. Yeah,
absolutely. Scott, what about
He's still available in about 55% of Yahoo leagues.
Yeah, about 45% rostered. 35% rostered, Scott, KJ Martin Jr.
Yeah, the Rockets are undergoing a transition. They're getting rid of people. They have injuries, etc., and giving a chance for some other guys to step up now. These are the post-Harden Rockets. And if you didn't get Kevin Porter Jr., KJ Martin's a nice forward consolation, only rostered in 35% of leagues. Over his last 3 games, 46 points and 23 rebounds. He can fill things up nicely in category leagues.
Hamidou Diallo, 23% rostered, Scott.
Yeah, and he got traded to the Detroit Pistons, and the Pistons are reportedly looking at him as a core player. Not sure exactly when he's going to get into the lineup, but this is a guy that I had rostered for a while when there were some injuries in OKC, and he really stepped forward. And he's going to get a chance to play, I think, a prominent role in Detroit. And he's only owned in 23% of leagues. Right now, he's somebody you should stash because I think he's going to get a lot of quality run with the Pistons. Also, that means, with him gone too, the very young team there in OKC, Luken's Dort is really getting a chance to move up and play a prominent role there. We'll have to wait to see if Al Horford's traded. That could affect the front court and maybe make for some nice pickups there in the front court. And Carmelo Anthony's still widely available in a lot of leagues, and this guy's killing it off the bench. He's even blocking shots this year. So, if Dort and Anthony are still out there, I think you have to get them too.
Yep, fair enough.
And Danilo Gallinari, has played real well lately. He's really coming on.
Yep, absolutely. The former Knick there, still doing his thing. All right, everybody. We are just about out of time. Don't forget, head over to rotoballer.com. We said it at the start. Football, baseball, basketball, NASCAR, MMA, PGA, you name it, either daily or DFS or season long, rotoballer.com has you. Sign up for the MLB premium package. Promo code KING or promo code ACES saves you a ton of money, gets you the draft guide, our rankings, and all sorts of great content at rotoballer.com. And check out all the great content here on Rotoballer's YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your Rotoballer podcasts. Scotty, this has been fun again, my friend.
Always fun. And
always.
The pleasure is all yours.
Absolutely, every week. Scott and I will be back next week, previewing baseball, talking some football, and all sorts of fun stuff. Thanks to Sean Engel producing in the background for us. Guys, stay smart, stay safe. We'll see you next time right here on the King and Pocket Aces.